Welcome to The Longer Game, the only show that's dedicated to the future of retail. We bring on real-life people in the retail industry. We talk about their experiences, we share their stories, we apply it to what's currently going on in the market, and we look towards the future of retail. You could say it's retail reimagined. My name is Michael Marr. I run a customized, done-for-you service agency called Cartology that helps brands win on Amazon. Now, while my expertise stems in the Amazon field, we bring on a wide array of guests because retail is expansive. You've got e-commerce. Yes, you've got marketplaces like Amazon. You've also got brick and mortar that is evolving. You've got logistics. You've got technology, finance. There are so many aspects to retail, and it's complicated. So we're here to bring you the entire story. Do you think that you have an interesting story and you'd like to tell it on the podcast? Then go to thelongergame.com and fill out a form to be a guest on the show today. You can catch The Longer Game on any social channels: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our website, thelongergame.com. We've got all awesome guests on this show, so that I will promise. Are you ready to hear more about the future of retail? Let's get down to business. Welcome, everybody, to The Longer Game, the podcast where we talk all about retail. And let's be honest, retail is pretty expansive. It involves so many different pieces and components. And today on the show, I have someone that is in a very specific segment of retail, and that really is customer service. And so today on the show with me, I have Hamish McKay. He is the CEO and co-founder of a SaaS company called Order Editing. And I bet you can't guess what they do, but he's going to explain it for us. So welcome to the show, Hamish.
Thanks for having me, Michael. Yeah, it's lovely. Appreciate all the listeners tuning in. I am Hamish McKay. I'm the 24-year-old CEO and co-founder here at Order Editing. And very much so, as the name says on the label, we're letting customers make changes to their orders without contacting customer service. And it hopefully sounds like a complete no-brainer, but when I worked in customer service a few years back in my first job out of college, people used to have to contact us to change their shipping address or to apply the discount code they forgot or cancel their order. And after we built this technology, we had 20% more time back in our day, and we no longer had to do this meaningless crud, as you might like to call it. We put it back in the customer's hands.
I think a great slogan would be Order Editing, no more meaningless crud. I don't know. I mean, it certainly is gets your attention, but I think
it might do.
What you're talking about is super low hanging fruit that maybe even seems kind of obvious. And when people think about innovation, or even myself, I have to think like, what's the new tech thing? What's the new trend? But in reality, innovation does not have to be reinventing the wheel. It could just be taking something and flipping it on its head. Like, hey, what if a customer wants to make a change to their order and we didn't do it for them, but we let them do it? I'm guessing you can like set parameters on what changes people can make. Am I right?
Totally, yeah. The merchant fully controls what they can do and how long for. And that, like, I mean, I always think about the Steve Jobs video, The Secrets of Life, where some college student goes, "What's your number one piece of advice to people who want to be entrepreneurs," or whatever it is? And he goes, and takes a big pause. He goes, "The reality is everyone grew up in this world and they just assumed that everything that they interacted with on a daily basis and whatnot were done correctly." And reality, like, all of these things were just made up by people no smarter than you and I. And you have full remit. You've got full freedom to try and poke things and make it a little bit different or try something else that's new. And I think this is, not quite as glamorous as Apple and putting an iPod in your pocket and things like that, a million songs in your pocket. But it is one of those things where I asked a bunch of team members, what do you spend the most time doing? They said it was making changes to orders on behalf of customers. And I just thought, that makes no sense. Like, who made the world that way? What if we just did it this way instead? And thankfully, we were the first ones to actually go out and execute on that idea.
I feel like if you are willing to ask a question, you may actually get an answer and not make an assumption about why that thing is that way. I think a lot of people in the world, because of personal bias, and I'm not just meaning even like social political bias. I just mean like everyone grows up, like you said, a certain way. And Steve Jobs' point was you grew up just assuming that the stuff was done right. You're a kid, you think, oh, adults must know things. And in reality, a lot of times it was something that was made up. Or I sit in something called a chair. We all just kind of agreed that this was going to be called a chair, and we didn't question it. Like, we could name it something different if we want, but it doesn't change the intention or the use of that object. But what if we were just willing to suspend what we thought, our biases of just, I grew up thinking that my dad always takes out the trash. What if I, the kid, could do it? What if mom could do it? Like, there are just like even small things like that if we're willing to say, like, what if this could be different, we might have a totally new perspective, and it will reframe how we think about things. And then we come up with a software, by the way, 24-year-old CEO, super great flex. But if you could just ask a question and think about it differently, be willing to say, hey, I'm going to suspend what I know about this right now and just look at it differently, I feel like that's how we start to solve problems. And I know this is way more like societal, but like if we as a society, as communities, not even just like countries, but like towns, cities, whatever, if we're willing to ask questions and think about it logically instead of going straight to my feelings on something, like we might actually get way more accomplished, and maybe we could all get 20% of our time back.
And it's like the Gen Z version of what Steve Jobs is saying, or what we're talking about, is you can just do things. Like, have you seen those like short form videos where it's like you can just go out and try on a dress and see how it looks, or like whatever it might be? And we're talking a lot about this internally at the moment, because I'm an anxious individual, and for the longest time, we've run our business for like a year and a half, and we don't have a single case study on our website. Like, there's no customer story, there's no interview, there's no video recorded of how, like, from the merchant's perspective, of their love for the app. And a lot of it's because I've just been scared to reach out, or I'm like waiting for the right time to have that ask. And the other day I sent out 20 emails saying, hey, can we come and film a case study with you? And like 14 of them said yes. And I just had this moment where I was like, why did I wait so long to do this? Like, you can just do things, like just ask. The worst thing that's going to happen is you say no. And it's very simple. I mean, for some reason, when we were talking, the like birth of influencer marketing like spawned in my head, where Instagram launches, someone posts a photo of them in a nice outfit, and some genius commented on that post and said, where did you get your t-shirt from? And influencer marketing is born.
Right. Yeah. Imagine if you stopped limiting yourself because of what you were afraid of happening. And if you just said, what's the worst thing that happens? Hamish says to himself, what's the worst thing that happens if I email someone and they say, and I say, hey, can we use you for a case study? Seriously, what's the worst that could happen? They say, no, absolutely not. I'm offended, and I am going to stop using your service. Okay, like that's a possibility. What's the likelihood of that happening? Very low. But even if it does, am I okay with that? Like, can I live with that? If the answer is yes, then like, what do you have to lose? Seriously, what are you
waiting for?
Yeah, what are you waiting for? And what if somebody said yes? Like they did. 14 out of 20 people, almost 75% said yes. That was way better than what you anticipated. So what are you going to do next time when you want to do something? Are you just going to do it? Did that convince you to just do it?
Well, it's like people when they're starting companies, one of the most common pieces of feedback that I get from like want to be founders is they go, oh, my idea is not ready yet, or the product's not ready yet, or we're not ready to go talk to investors now or talk to customers because it's not fully formed. And like, what are you waiting for? And it's funny because that's something that I believed in a lot when I first started. Like we just did things. And I wrote this article about this, where the earliest stages of your company, the first year or so of your company, are just the most amazing time of your life, especially if you're like if you haven't raised money and it's relatively low pressure, because there's no expectations for you. Like you're literally just a guy who's started something. No one knows who you are. No one gives a crap about your product or service. And your sole job is to get people to care and pay attention. And the worst thing that happens is no one sees you trying. So
Which
I was
they
like
already weren't
very
seeing you doing, right?
exactly. So I remember I was so creative when we first started. I used to do these crazy stunts where I'd film myself biking around my city, dropping flyers at like fashion retailers' front doors and sticking them up, and sending them personalized videos, and sending them pizzas and things like this to try and get their attention, and putting it all out on the internet. And I had this distinctive moment one time where I was recording this video, and I said to the camera, and I just said, like, in a kind of journalist way, just thought, I just think this is absolutely brilliant, because at some point I'm not going to be allowed to do this. Because at some point I'm going to have some form of reputation. There's going to be some form of expectation, and it's either going to be too embarrassing to do it, or it's actually just not going to be appropriate because I have to put out an image. And I think my one piece of advice that I actually wrote to myself in this article was like, hold on to that feeling of having no expectations for as long as possible. Because one, you'll have way more fun. Like life's a lot more fun when you're
Amen
not
to
anxious
that.
about what people think of you.
Yeah.
And two, you'll probably do more like creative stuff that ultimately helps your business grow faster, or attracts more people to your crowd, or like whatever it might be. And it's unfortunate how I think, I think we're wired and how we grew up to eventually lose that. It's like the difference between you play with toys and your imagination as a little kid, and then suddenly
Sure.
it feels awkward to pick up Star Wars figurines and play around
And
with
go,
them.
woo,
Yeah,
make
exactly.
airplane
And what a
noises.
shame.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a shame.
What a shame. I think it's right.
Hmm.
I think if you are willing, a lot of just reframing stuff is how I like to look at it. A lot of people say, we can't do this. I can't do this. Okay. What would you do if you could do it? What would that look like? And people can start, okay, well, if I could do this, I'd be able to do this. This is okay. And then what do you need to be able to do this thing? Like, I can't drive a car. Okay, well, what if you could? Like, what would that look like? Well, I would be super experienced. Okay, how would you get experience? Well, I would practice, start practicing. Okay, and would you have when you first start practicing? Would you have any experience? No. Would you get better over time? Yeah, I'd probably get better. How could you make getting better happen in a shorter period of time? Well, I'd take a class or I'd get help. Like you start to think about how you could do something, and then guess what? Maybe you can do it. We're so limited sometimes because we've heard no so many times. And as someone who does sales for my agency, Cartology, I don't always like hearing no. I love hearing yes. Yes is great. But a lot of times no teaches me, okay, maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I didn't ask enough questions to find out what the actual problem was. Maybe this person is just not a right fit. So it's not just getting the no, but it's getting the no and then debriefing and saying, could this have been different? What did we learn from this experience? But being willing to get the no also means that you can get yes. And there's a great quote. It's not really a quote by him, but I love The Office, the Steve Carell version. I originally watched the British one and loved it and was like, I'm never going to watch the American one. That's not the real one. But then I ended up watching it and I was like, oh, I love this way more.
Steve Carell's so good.
Steve Carell's so good. Like, just couldn't even imagine. And so many people are like, yeah, but the first season's terrible. I'm like, okay, we'll start at the second season and then come back. First season is pretty dry. But if you don't like that, like, don't watch the British one. Like, it will shock and awe you because it's so dry. But Ricky also makes an appearance on The Office. The U.S. version. But anyway, Michael Scott says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. But that's super true. If you never take a shot, you will never get a goal. It is impossible. So why not take a shot?
I mean, it's like, it's just like having hard conversations. Like anything that's you're nervous about doing because you're worried about consequences, provided it's logical and not, non-illogical things that have consequences, they're usually seriously in your best interest. like a hard conversation with an employee, or I've been doing this thing every Friday where I catch up with one of the people on my team, and I just like point blank ask her, what's the biggest like pain in your ass at the moment? Like what's the bottleneck? Like what's annoying you? Or even like where are you finding the way that I work with you frustrating? Just these kind of awkward questions that aren't perhaps supernatural in conversation, but they need to be asked because they're never going to get asked otherwise. Like when are you ever going to find the perfect time to go, hey Michael, what's the most frustrating part about working with me?
Live
There's
on a
never going to be
podcast, that would be the best time to do it. We're not live right now, but if we were, that would be the best time to do it.
And there's two things that come out of that, right? One, it feels amazing asking these difficult questions. And like both for me, because you feel like you've overcome a little bit of a mountain. And this is a relatively small mountain in comparison to some of the other things you might climb, like letting go of an employee or hiring a new one, for example. And two, it feels great for them because they're heard. And then three, you get to practice this amazing skill of when someone presents you with an issue or with something that you should be doing better, saying, I will do that thing, and then actually doing it. And one of the most profound levels of, people talk about A players and stuff, and just like where you respect people, the people that I respect most in my life, and I think the people that generally most people respect, are those that say they're going to do something and then they do it. And that sounds really obvious, but the majority of people I find just don't say they're going to do anything. Like they never put themselves in a situation where they go, hey everybody, I'm going to email all of our clients next week and see who's going to do a case study with us. They have the thought of like, that's a good idea, I should do that, but they never communicate it because they're scared of committing to the thing. And some of the craziest people I work with or have worked with in the past will like either just present their ideas and say, I'm going to do this thing, and then they go do it. And you're like, wow, he can do things.
He really did do it.
he really did do the thing, But it's fun. Like how often do you work with someone where you don't just think they do their job, you think these people tell me what they're going to do and then they do it. Like it's a very different thing. It's almost like the difference between monotony and working at a level of expectation, and then working at a level where you're kind of creating your own expectations. You're actually autonomous. You're not just filling out the job description. And you have to practice that even as the CEO of anything. You have to practice it more than anyone else. It'd be very easy for me to go about my day and take the sales calls that are on my calendar and meet with the customers that I have and hire new people and post on LinkedIn and promote my business. But it completely wipes out the mind work or the working on the business that you have to do at the top, but also everyone in your organization has to do. Like, how can I actually improve this a little bit? How can I break the walls of how I work? Steve Jobs it and figure out how we could do things slightly differently that would actually make a difference, and then go and do the thing.
Steve
kind of
Jobs'
the
willingness
inverse
to.
of.
Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say it's kind of like there's a lot of advice that says don't tell people what you're going to do before you do it, because you get the dopamine hit of, oh, that's a great idea, Hamish, or oh wow, like amazing, you're going to run a marathon. Like wait till you actually do the thing. But I think if you're actually someone who doesn't get dopamine from hearing, like from people acknowledging your ideas, but dopamine from executing, then it's far better to tell people what you're going to do and then go do it.
If you make a commitment and you hold to it, you're probably ahead of most people that you know. I mean,
Unfortunately, yeah.
in all reality, a lot of people are all talk, and there is nothing worse than probably murder, but there's nothing worse than someone just not living up to their word. But even more importantly, there's a lot of people that acquire knowledge and just never use it. And that is really just result in pride. Like now you know all this stuff, you've never actually applied it. And I would rather talk with the person who's done it, even just done something, even not done it well, but that person has more practical experience and has hopefully learned from that. And then they can maybe go and do it better again the next time. But better to put one thing into practice than to know everything and do none of it.
I used to call that intellectual masturbation.
That's exactly what it is.
Right.
It really is. It really is. Maybe that'll be the title of this episode. Who knows?
Yeah.
It really is. It's that's exactly what it is. You're getting off on knowing stuff, but not ever doing
Doing it. Yeah.
which is kind of crazy because you could just go out and do stuff, right? You could just, like you said, you could just go out and try on a dress or get a job at a coffee shop or make that thing that you said you were going to do. And what if you did that and what if you failed? What could you live with that? What if you did it and you succeeded? Oh my goodness. The possibilities are almost limitless. And yet there was a great book that I read a long time ago as a recommendation of an aunt of mine who's since passed away, but just was super influential on me. And she would say things that stood out to me. One of them was I would say something, oh, I should really do that. And she would say, don't shit on yourself. I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. Maybe it's like, hey, I need to do this. That's a lot more action oriented than I should. And should is almost like shaming yourself in a way. It doesn't mean you are not supposed to do that thing, but just how you frame stuff. But she recommended a book to me called The Four Agreements. And she's like, this could help you, when you're repairing this relationship that you have with this person. But the whole crux of the book is you are just learn over time that things are the way that they are. That chair example that I brought up was kind of like that. All right, hey, this is a mouse, and we're not sponsored by this company, whatever it is. It's just some brand on Amazon, I'm sure. But this is a mouse. We decided to call it a mouse, and that is what it is. But really, we could call it whatever we want, and we've agreed on a lot of things. And if you're told no enough times, Hamish, you may just agree that, you know what, I can't do stuff. So I'm just not. I'm not going to venture. I'm not going to say something because maybe I can't do it. Maybe I will look stupid. But who cares? Who cares if you look stupid? Do you really care if you look stupid? Well, I don't want to look, like a fool in front of people. Why does that matter? Well, because then they might think differently than me. Okay, does that change who you are? Change what you're capable of? No. Maybe look a little more stupid. Maybe that should be what you do. It's just like, what can I do today that's a little. What was it that somebody said? It was like, what's something I could do today if I were capable of it that I could attempt to do. I'm not saying that well, but the whole point of like, well, what if you could do this? Like, what's something impossible that I could try and do? Or just something out of the ordinary. But like, you start to think outside that box of no, you might actually get some yeses.
It's like, rejection therapy is kind of in line with this. Like, it's a way to practice. I can't remember what the side of your brain is that's more creative, but a way to kind of trigger that side of your brain and
Your right
and
side.
unlearn a lot of the things that you learn as a kid, which is rules and boundaries being set for you, as opposed to setting your own boundaries and understanding where your own points of view or worldview sit. And people talk about, and to relate this to business, because this is just, it's all my brain thinks about
Sure.
at the moment is this company, is people talk a lot about startups and admire people who run businesses and how fast they move. Like, man, they just make decisions so quickly and they do things so quickly. I actually think it's relatively, speed is of course one of it, but I think one of the key differences that I think founders try and learn for themselves or teach themselves is this level of intentionality, where that conversation of I should do something or what should I do is always very front of mind. And one of the examples I had of this recently was I was on a call with my associate who, I'm trying to train and get him to a point where he can run the US for us. And he's amazing. He's got all of the attitude, but his public speaking isn't there. He'll jump onto a sales call and he'll be very monotone. And there'll be no variance in his voice and no emphasis on the words that he uses. So it's very hard to follow what he's saying and what's important.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's the most important thing for you to work on right now, Lockie. And if you ended scene right there.
Lockheed Thor's brother?
Yeah, exactly. Scottish name. Have you ended the scene right there? Like you didn't really do a whole lot for this person,
Mm.
and you didn't do something very intentional. You gave feedback, and that might feel great. Like good on you. You gave some live feedback. The level up from that is what should I do to like help him achieve that thing? And you might have an extended conversation, or you might buy him a public speaking coach and go, how can I like just these questions of I'm frustrated with X behavior, or I'm frustrated with X part of my business, or X part of my life. And it's one thing to acknowledge it, it's the other thing to go on this journey of, okay, what could I immediately do? Because I can't just do things to solve that problem. And if someone needs help with their public speaking, if someone needs help with their tonality, get them a bloody voice coach and the problem be solved in 3 weeks, if they actually intentionally focus on that program. If you've got no case studies, if merchants aren't buying your software because there's not enough social proof out there, then go and do that thing. Go and get those. And I think one of the things that people struggle with, and you hear this a lot, and it's disguised by the question of, I don't know what I want to do with my life, or I'm not sure what I want to do, or um, how do I assemble this bed? Just like generally confusion.
Those are two very different things, but I like where your head is. What am I going to do with my life? How am I going to assemble
How do
this
I?
bed? I feel like there might have
There's,
been a bed assembly in your life recently, if that's what is
I
coming to
wish
the
there. I wish
forefront
there was. What a fun little project.
of your mind. Okay.
But beds are a great example because IKEA gives you the instructions, and
They
people
do
get really
not give you
confused.
relationship management, though, when you put those things together.
Exactly. They don't. They don't tell you how to recover from all the fights you have while you do it,
I kid you not.
or
That is
what
like
or what deodorant to recommend while you're sweating your ass off like doing your bed.
those are true relationship builders. And putting together any piece of furniture, I cannot tell you how many times my wife and I have done something together and it was like, all right, man, I really need to work on patience, but you also really need to read directions because you are not doing it. That was not necessarily me or her, but I'm just like walk away from that. Like, okay, we could do this better for sure.
That was couples therapy right there and
Right there, yeah.
then. But people get really confused without instructions. They really struggle to come up with steps themselves. That's why people go to university and whatever, because it kind of lays out your next 4 years for you, and that's really enjoyable. And you're also taught to think that way, right? You spend, I don't know, 15 years in school going through some form of regimen, and you go out in the real world, and it's like, well, there's no instructions here, and you have all these people who are quite confused, and you go soul searching, which is an amazing thing to do. But like people are intelligent. We're not monkeys. We have the majority of us have super solid brains, and we can come up with great things if you take the uncomfortable time to focus on it. And something that I always say to university students, like whenever I'm fortunate to be in a class, is just think about when you come home to your partner in 5 years' time. And this is a way to kind of trigger your right hand brain. When I go home to my partner in 5 years' time, because hopefully I have a partner, and they go, "What did you do today?" What do I want to say and answer that question?
That's a lot better than do you see yourself in 5 years, by the way. Because where
Totally.
you see where you see yourself in 5 years, there's no situation. It's like, I don't know, where do I see myself? But you're not giving someone a particular context. And that's a very real thing because everyone's probably come home at some point. Like, what did you do today? Maybe as a kid, you're like, oh, nothing. But you really did something. But yeah, I like that question. That's a good way to get a better response.
And then you just cycle backwards. Like if you're like, I do not want to work with people. I want to. I say to my wife, oh, I spent my day researching this really interesting thing or this hobby of mine. Or I went really deep into some niche subject, or I worked one on one with someone, just me and another person, my best friend. We did this thing. Like you start to come up with answers of what you might want to do with your life and your career. And the way that I answered this question, 5 or so years ago was I want to come home and tell my partner that I spent my entire day hanging out with the smartest young people on planet Earth. Like I just think what an awesome and inspiring way to come like to spend my day is just having interesting conversations with young people and hopefully educating them. Cool. Hamish wants to be a teacher when he's older. Like that's answer done. And so what I did was I
Maybe,
just thought like
maybe
maybe
he
or like
does.
some format of that, right? Or at least
I
that's
just
what
know I'm
Hamish
not going to
now
be in the
thinks.
room because I'm no longer young. But anyway, I know
Depends
I
how
won't
you
be
class
there.
it. If you want to be there, you can be there. But then you just think about what would I reasonably need to do to make that happen? Like, how do I
Yeah.
maximize my odds of that?
Yeah. Work backwards into it. What if I did do this? What would it look like? Oh, it look like this. Okay. And then what's the next step behind that? Next step behind that.
Exactly.
It's like almost, this is super mundane, but just like building a projection. Okay. What do you, where do you want to get to? I want to get to $5 million. Okay. How many products do you have to sell? I have 5. Okay. And you can start to find numbers for things, average order value, all the stuff. What's the typical customer acquisition cost? And then you can start to determine, okay, well, it's going to cost me, I can get to 5 million, but it's going to cost me 2.5 million. Is it worth it to do? It's an easier way to figure out how to get to your goals just by stating them out loud and then working backwards into them.
I had a friend who did that exact exercise, and he showed me the document that he made. So you're running a software company that does this revenue, so I need 2,000 customers paying me $100 a month or something like that. And he wrote down all of the things he could do to maximize his chances of getting there. And the interesting thing here, insight into human behavior, is that he wrote all of these things that would make no difference. He wrote, I get up, like kind of like manifestations of the person he should be if he was to do that thing. I get up at 7 a.m. and immediately get out of bed. And I looked at that, and then there were other things like, I work with great founders and I got mentored. And I'm like, okay, that one is great. Like, that will actually help you get there. What time you wake up and how quickly you get out of bed is not going to make a difference. That sounds more like you're trying to solve a fundamental personality flaw that you perceive, or you'd rather be a different type of person, but has no impact on your career.
You're trying to follow what someone else's routine or regimen looks like because
Exactly.
you think that
You're being
routine
influenced.
is what gets them to success. That routine is just discipline. It's a discipline, but they have to have discipline in their field in order to be great. I can have a great spiritual discipline of reading my devotions or reading my Bible every day, but I also have to go out and learn more about Amazon and be successful to get better at that. I can't just hope or pray that's going to happen. I could get better at exercising. That doesn't mean I'm going to be a better dad if I don't spend time with my kid. Like, you still have to do the actual practical thing that you want to get better at.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get up at 4 a.m. And if I did get up at 4 a.m., it wouldn't be so that I could run a business or be successful. It would be because I like getting up at 4 a.m. and I like what my mornings are like, and I enjoy living life that way. It's not the requirement to be successful or something. That type of stuff, eating healthy is not a requirement for running a business. It is a requirement if you want to be in shape and look great.
And be around for, more than
the longest time
45
possible.
years. Yeah. Although certainly you could also get hit by a bus and then just go down. Like, there's no guarantee of what will happen.
That'd be the craziest Brian Johnson story arc.
Like, he does all this stuff, measures all these things, and then like couldn't forecast getting hit by a bus. But like, what did you say?
It'd be so upsetting. I think he would factor this into the way he lives his life. I reckon he de-risks. He doesn't drive, I'm sure, and I imagine there's something there.
I think you're probably right, and there's a reason why when people get insured or a company acquisition happens, like, people put in contracts, you cannot do X thing because it is such a great risk.
No trips to Vegas.
I would opt out of the trips to Vegas. I'm just not as big of a fan. But like, getting on a plane would be safer technically than getting in a car for sure.
Totally.
Which is crazy though, because the fear of what could happen in a plane stops people from enjoying the flight way more than the fear of what happens in a car. But why do you think that is? I have a theory, but why do you think people are more afraid of flying than they are getting in a car? With someone who is not as skilled as a pilot is, for sure.
It must be, how things that you see often are just like they're part of your data. They're familiar. This familiarity. It's very rare that you see a plane with actual human beings in it, unless you're in one. The only time you actually see a plane with human beings in it, not just flying up in the air, like, oh, what's going on there, is when you're in the plane and you're about to take off. Whereas you're walking around and everyone's driving in cars and it's normal. Like this is just a part of human nature. That would be my best guess for why it feels scary.
I think you're exactly right. And I think there's an application to everything we've been talking about in business. The more familiar you are with risk, the easier it is to do it. It doesn't make it any less challenging. It doesn't mean there's any less necessarily risk of failing, but it gets easier to take risks. And then you can start to take bigger risks. And in the past 15 years of being an entrepreneur, I'm like, man, the things I'm doing now versus even 7-8 years ago, risk is way higher, but I feel way more comfortable and capable of doing things because of all the like risk familiarity, if you want to call it that, from the first, I don't know, 7-8 years. And now I can take on bigger challenges, and they're still hard and challenging and difficult, but there's a lot more potential gain at the end too. But that like, okay, I'm more comfortable with doing this starts with, hey, maybe I just go ask my customers if they want to do a case study. Oh, that wasn't that hard. Okay. But then maybe you get more no's of like, screw you, Hamish, we don't want to work with you anymore. But then you're like, oh, you know what, that actually wasn't that bad. And I kind of hated that customer anyway because they were always a pain in the ass. Okay, well, cool. I just learned something from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's why advice is often quite hard to follow, because often the meat and potatoes of advice is hidden behind actually doing the thing, and people want to have everything all at once. And it's why I think Nike's slogan is just do it, and a lot of founders, or especially content creators push this all the time. So many kids want to be YouTubers or Instagram people, influencers. And everyone who's selling their courses or trying to motivate people to do this says, just post your first video. And the reason why they give this advice is just because all that you really need to do is just start and improve upon the thing. And it's why, I've been asked, and I've written about this before, where people often ask me, like, why do you do, like, what gave you the confidence to work in a specific way? Or why does your brain work in a specific way? And I have a very fundamental experience in my childhood where I started rowing as a 15-year-old. And rowing very viscerally taught me that the more times I pull on my oar, the stronger I get and the more likely I'm going to win. And if I do that more than anyone else in my age group, I'm going to be the best person in my age group. And I just had this very point blank lesson of, if I work hard, I will get some results off of that. And it doesn't matter when those happen, it's going to happen at some point. And, it worked. I rowed my ass off for 4 years. And by the end of it, I was one of the best rowers in my age group in my country.
What was your best 500-meter time?
It was more of a 2K.
Okay, what was your best 2K time?
My 2K was a 6:09.
Okay, I don't even know. I'm trying to like put that in perspective. I just remember getting on a rowing machine, never doing like real rowing, and doing like 250 meters as hard as I can. And you're like, that's going to be so easy. And then you do it and you're like, oh my gosh, like that was horrible.
So I was doing 4 500s at a 132 average.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Back to back.
Back to back, yeah. Flat 2K race.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. I'm thinking like you're doing like 500 rest for a minute, whatever. Anyway, yeah, that's impressive, man.
But that experience was everything to me. It just taught me, if I just start doing this thing and then do a lot of it, everything will be okay. And I think a lot of people, when they think about starting businesses or doing anything, finding new jobs, they have this massive fear of they can't understand the big picture. Like they know that there are some lessons they haven't learned yet, and they want to learn it all right now. Yeah. And shit can take time. It's totally fine.
Yep.
I started a company, and 10 months later, I had to figure out how to hire people. If I was stressing out about hiring people at the very start, oh man, I would not be here.
Yeah, you never would have done it.
That's gonna come later. I'll figure out when it happens. And You shit yourself putting a job ad out. You have no idea what to put for the salary. You have no idea how to interview, but it's fine. Get some fresh advice then and go do the thing again.
And on the other side of that, then you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't that bad. Or maybe you're like, man, that was way tougher than I thought, but now I'm prepared. Like there's always something you can learn on the other side of that. There's always something that you can get from that. But yeah, there's a reason why software companies have something called an MVP. What's your minimum viable product? What can you get out there to test it and get it going? Humans are the exact same way. And if you don't, it just results in mental masturbation of a dream. A dream of like, I want to start this thing. Okay, great. Like, go and do it. Determine, is that even what you want to do? You don't know. You have an idea, but launch it and then be like, oh, this is what I want to do. Okay, cool. Or, you know what? I hate this, but I found out this other thing and I'm going to go move on and do that. What if it was that easy?
It'd be, I mean, it's almost like a world, not a world without anxiety. It's a world without people failing to overcome it.
Yes.
And I mean, candidly, I'd be worried about my business if that was the case. Because imagine, like, it's like people talk about, it's funny, founders will often say, don't hide your business ideas, just tell people your business ideas. No one's going to steal them. Like, no one can be asked executing on your idea, even if it's good. And it's kind of true, not just because like you need to really love an idea to do it, but also because the majority of people will write themselves out of doing that thing, or they'll feel fearful that they can't compete with you. I met with so many people that were like, man, this software idea is so simple, it's hidden in plain sight. And I'm like, yeah, you should totally come after me and try and take my business. Like, you've seen it's a good idea. It shocks me. Honestly, in some ways, it disappoints me that less people compete with our product. I'm like, what is wrong with the world? We've proved out an idea.
Yeah.
You've seen that this is a good idea. Why not compete? And it's because you write yourself out of even having a crack.
It takes, I think, a lot more critical mass to start to get people to come out.
For sure.
Like, Better For You soda, no one thought that was going to be, I think, super successful. But now that you see companies like Poppy sell, it's like, yep, Better For You soda, Better For You soda, Better For You soda, prebiotic, probiotic, postbiotic. You see all these companies come out because now it's not as challenging. It's not as hard. But if I'm honest, I want the challenge. I don't want to do something that's just as easy. I want to take the risk. I'm willing to fail big, but I'm also willing to succeed big too.
People used to say to us, what happens if Shopify just builds your idea into their product? I'll go and kills your business. I'll go, sweet. I had an amazing 3 years running a company and I learned so much, and I'm literally a child. Like,
yeah,
it's like,
I'll show you guys.
I'm just like, it's not a bad outcome. Like, there's no bad outcomes here. Worst comes to worst, I make no money, but I had 3 incredible years where I grew like a mother trucker, and I learned more than I ever would have possibly thought of, prior to starting this business.
That is
not that deep.
That's incredible to just be able to say there's no bad outcomes. If the outcome is the objective, like I talked about setting a target of revenue, if you don't hit the target, is that really a failure? I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. What if it was just, hey, I learned so much along the way, and that was an outrageous goal to try and hit, or man, we went way below it. We can do way more. Now you have learned and you've accomplished something in that 3 years. Unless you really just sat on your thumbs and did nothing, you will gain something from that. If the outcome is it, then I think you've probably lost the battle already. Hamish, this went way deeper than I even thought it would. But it was great. But it was great, and I'm so happy that you came on and talked about it, and about what you're building at Order Editing. And I'll never forget that name because I know exactly what you do. But if people want to know more about what it is that you're doing, where should they go to find you? Should they go into the gym and look at you on a Concept 2? Or, tell us where they can find you.
I'm definitely not in the gym anymore. LinkedIn is my best and favorite channel. I post nearly every day there. I'm a certified blogger. I love sharing my stories online. So if you look up my name, Hamish McKay, I'm sure it'll be in the show notes, and follow or connect me on there, and you'll be able to see everything that's going on in our company in very real time.
Love it. Yes, you will see it in the show notes. And that's it, everyone. We don't have anything else for you. I think the lesson today is just go out and do. So if you keep sitting after this, you have not even paid attention one bit, and you really should just be going and doing. So we're out. All right, that was the show. What did you think? That was the longer game. We would love for you to share the show with other people and to leave us a review of the show. So go to iTunes, go to Spotify, you can go to YouTube, comment, leave a review, and share this on any social channels that you are active on and wherever you have influence. We want to share this story and stories like it to as many people as possible. Do you have a compelling story and do you want to come on the podcast and talk about it, and you're in the retail industry, then go to thelongergame.com, fill out a form, and we will contact you about coming on the show. You can find us on any social channels, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and you can go to our website, thelongergame.com, to actually read all of these episodes in blog form in text, because we know not everyone's going to listen. This podcast is brought to you by my agency, Cartology. We are a customized, done-for-you service agency that helps brands win on Amazon. It is super complex selling on the Amazon Marketplace. We help simplify that for you. This podcast is also brought to you by Podcastify Me. They are a full-service podcast production company that designs podcasts around people who are paid for their advice. That is coaches. If you want someone to help create, strategize, and distribute your podcast to the masses, go to podcastify.me to find out more. I've so enjoyed that you've been a part of the conversation and that you've given of your time to hear these people's stories. We'd love for you to share. If you want to find out more, just go to thelongergame.com. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. And until next time, cheers.